All right, so on to our lesson for today. Of course, this is a refresher lesson. We're going to be working on adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Now, definitely understand that adding and subtracting fractions is a skill that you should have mastered about 6th grade, and most of you, now 8th graders. However, we are using fractions well beyond just those simple fraction problems of adding and subtracting. Now you're going to be using them in equations, in geometry, in all kinds of other areas. So if you are not still understanding how to add and subtract fractions, then adding the piece of them being equations is just going to muddy the waters even more. So let's go ahead and do some practice. First of all, a reminder of our learning targets. So we will be identifying the least common multiple of unlike denominators, correctly solving problems adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, and hopefully you'll be able to get that 4 out of 5 times. And then also, on top of that, making sure that you're having the answer in its simplest form, 2 out of 3 times. What must you have before you can add or subtract fractions? Well, you must have common denominators. You have to have that before you can add or subtract. How do you get common denominators? You determine the least common multiple, otherwise known as the LCM, of the denominators. Oh, that has a question mark. That should be an exclamation point. Good to know. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice. If you don't have a piece of paper and a pencil or a whiteboard or something where you're doing these practice problems, please pause the video now so that you can go get those items. All right, so our first example, we are just going to be changing one denominator. As you can see, our denominators are different. We have a 2 and we have a 6. Okay. Well, we only need to change one denominator. We can change the 2 to a 6 by multiplying 2 times 3. Whatever we do to the bottom, we also need to do to the top, so we need to multiply that numerator by 3 as well. So the 1 over 6 stays 1 over 6, and this changes to 3 over 6, and we're adding. Okay, another reminder, denominator stays the same. So 6 is our denominator, and then we add the numerators together. 3 plus 1 is 4. So our answer is 4 over 6. However, remember what our third learning target. Restate the answer in its simplest form. Well, we need to reduce this. So simplest form is the same as reduce is the same as lowest terms. So if they're asking you to do that for fractions, they all mean the same thing. So if we've got 4 and 6, what can we divide both of those numbers by? Right, we can divide them both by 2. So we're going to divide them by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our final answer is 2 over 3. Okay. If you need to finish writing this down, go ahead and pause the video, and then you can go ahead and unpause it to move on. All right, here are some practice problems. If you would please pause the video so that you can write down both practice problems, making sure that you leave space enough to work. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can write the problems and work them both through on your own and then press play on the video to see if you have gotten them correct. Or you can pause the video, write the problems down, and then work through them with me to make sure that you're on the right track. So decide what you're going to do, and let's get started. So we are still working through problems where we only have to change one denominator. So I have a 4 and an 8. Well, I can make this denominator 8 by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 2. So this fraction stays 3 over 8, and this fraction becomes 2 over 8. We're creating equivalent fractions. Reminder, the denominator stays the same. So our denominator is 8, and then 2 plus 3 is 5. Can I divide 5 and 8 by anything in order to get this to lowest terms? The answer is no. 5 and 8, 5/8 is reduced down to its lowest terms. Okay, problem number 2. Let me switch colors real quick. Let's go with green. All right, so I have a 9 for a denominator and I have a 3, and I'm also noticing that this is subtraction, so double make sure of that one. All right, so I know that I can turn my 3 into a 9 by multiplying by 3. So the 8 over 9 will stay, 8 over 9, subtracts, and then this changes to 3 over 9. Just like with addition, we keep the same denominator with the subtraction, and then we subtract the numerators. 8 minus 3 is 5. So now I have a 5 and a 9. Can I divide those by the same number? Nope, I can't. So our final answer in its lowest terms, 5 over 9. How'd you do? Okay, let's go ahead and move it on to something a little bit more challenging, when we have to change both denominators. Okay, so this is our least common multiple part where we want to start thinking. Probably a bunch of you are just used to, okay, whatever this denominator is, I'm going to multiply that to this, like cross multiply almost. Sometimes that's the best idea, sometimes not. So for lowest common denominators, I'm just going to start listing denominators. The smaller one is 3, so I'm going to go ahead and list multiples. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. I'm going to stop there. And then multiples for 5. 5, 10, 15, and I'm going to stop right there because now 15 shows up on both my lists, and that's my least common multiple. That's my lowest number that I can use for both of them. So in this case, I am going to multiply by the other denominator. Don't forget you're using that same number for the numerator. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 5 times 3 is 15. Okay. Over here, in order to get to 15, I need to multiply by 5, both the numerator and the denominator. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now I have the same denominators, and remember the denominator stays. And then, in this case, I'm subtracting the numerators. 12 minus 5 is 7. 7 and 15, I can't divide those by anything, so 7 over 15 is my final reduced answer. Pause the video if you need to finish writing this down. Okay, here are our practice problems. Just like with the previous practice problems, if you would like to pause the video, write them down, work them through yourself, then go ahead and do that. If you want to pause the video, write them down, work through one with me, and then pause the video and work through the second one on your own, then that's fine too. but go ahead and write down the problems. All right. So here I have 6 and 4. So I'm going to start with the smallest number, which is 4, and I'm going to start listing some of my multiples. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. And I'm just going to stop there. Our 6, 12, 18. Oh, hold on. I need to stop because 12 has shown up on both lists. So that means that my common denominator is 12. And what did I multiply the 6 by to get 12? I need to multiply by 2. So I need to multiply the numerator by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. On the second fraction, how did I get to 12? I multiply the 4 by 3, so I need to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. So my numerator is 3. The 12 stays as my denominator. And now I do the subtraction. 10 minus 3 is 7. Can 7 and 12 both be divided by? They cannot. So the final simplified answer, 7 over 12. Okay, on number 4. So I have a 10 and I have a 7. I'm going to go ahead and start listing my multiples for 7. So I have 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. While I'm doing this and I feel like I'm going along, what do I know about multiples of 10? Right, they all end in a 0. So I need, my multiple has to end in a 0. So I'm just going to keep going. 56, 63, and there it is, 70. So if my least common multiple is 70, my denominator is 70. So on this first fraction, how do I get to 10 from to 70 from 10? I multiply by 7. 3 times 7 is 21. And on this one, I need to multiply by 10, so this is 20. And when I add those together, my denominator is 70, my numerator is 41. I can't divide 41 and 70 by anything, so that's it. Okay. All right. So, just a reminder. As we're going through and we need to add or subtract fractions, we need to look at them. Helping to make sure that we are doing the best we can to solve the problems without wasting time or doing more work than we need to. Do we need to change both denominators or just one? Because you don't want to change both if you don't have to. What is the smallest number we need to multiply one or both denominators by? Okay, so thinking about that least common multiple there. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, and then don't forget at the very end, you need to make sure that your final answer is in the simplest form. Because if you don't do that, then you will not receive full credit for your work. Okay, so now that we are done with the video, you are going to head back to the main slide and you are going to do the lesson evaluation. It is a Google form with 5 questions and you're going to fill that out and do the best that you can to make sure that you are giving the answer in its simplest form. Have a great day.